We start with Josh Peck from Drake and Josh back in the day, waffling on about some lame-ass cringe story. Before his boss Isaac does us all a favour and blows him and his mates to Kingdom Come, when it's revealed he's a naughty traitor fella and actually secretly hates these federal goons he was put in charge of. And promptly tells one last survivor to choose if he's going to flip to their side too, or else take his chances against a swarm of rebels and this grenade-happy team-killing chocolatey bomber chap. Anyway, after the opening titles, we cut to 11 years later, as we catch up with them Scissor Sisters raiding an old pharmacy. After spotting something interesting but not quite showing us what, the girls head back out on the hunt for that golf-loving Abby bird, but first pause to wonder why on earth Seattle used to be full of rainbow flags and pride decorations. And before you can say, well, I could tell you truthfully but I'd probably get banned off the YouTubes, they come across the withered bodies of them tank bozos what totally got team killed by their chocolate boss for shits and giggles a decade ago, before spotting a nearby WLF HQ, but deciding to wait till nightfall to investigate to see if Joel's naughty murderer killer is in there or not. So in the meantime, Ellie finds a random guitar, somehow fully tuned and in mint condition, and makes Dina cringe and possibly come so hard with her singing the liquid starts to seep from her every orifice, and soon says she has to go dry herself off with beef jerky. Or some shit. Speaking of dry gristle, elsewhere, a now much older Isaac is out here torturing a nudie naked man in a small kitchen. And blimey, it must be bloody cold in there if you catch me drift.
How dare you!
Anyway, turns out he's a member of that religious group of scarred up baldy blokes from last epi, and the proper name for their group is Seraphites. And he won't tell his captor what he wants to know, nor where the next attack is going to be for love nor money. So said captor eventually gives up burning him with a small frying pan, and instead just shoots him off screen.
Oh, that's cold.
Later that night, Dina and her mate, whose forehead still haunts my fucking nightmares, soon sneak into that WLF facility, but just find a guy with arrows growing out of his belly and a bunch of strung up bodies horrifically mutilated. Naturally, Dina spews her fucking guts up, as Ellie is just relieved that her phony fakey father's killer isn't amongst these losers what seem to have been killed by them baldy scarred peeps with the ginger kiddies and shit, because their symbols and nutty cult messages written in blood are smeared all over the walls and stuff. And once finished puking everywhere, Dina just says,
What the fuck is wrong with Seattle?
And before you can say, well, quite a lot obviously, given we're 20 to 30 years into a zombie type apocalypse and these zealots are still obsessed with flying rainbow flags and banging on about pride despite it being a literal deadly sin and shit, they're soon forced to hide when the dead fella's backup arrives. And after a brief tussle ensues, in which a grown-ass man is wrestled into a headlock by a small lesbian and then promptly dies of pure shame, emasculation and general indignity, the girls are chased out into the pouring rain and over into an abandoned train station, where these relentless WLF fellas soon follow and just stupidly wake up a horde of mushroom heads. No! So they're soon forced to endure a pretty standard subway ride in Seattle and fend off being harassed by stinky infectious, roaming homeless basket cases.
Standard.
And they then end up fighting off an entire mob of zombozos through tight quarters and up on train carriage roofs. Which actually turns out to be
super easy, barely an inconvenience,
given they have plot armour up the kazoo. But speaking of, Ellie puts up her plot armour to protect her lesbo lover after they get cornered and she once again gets eaten out by a woman, but not in the fun way. Gah! Why do I never get my arm or tummy sucked on by super horny sapphic sluts? Anyway, now munched up and doomed to turn into a not so fun funky fella any time now, the girls get the heck out of Dodge and head into the lobby of a local movie theatre, where Dina probably sticks a gat in her face after witnessing another woman sucking off her girlfriend right in front of her barely 2 minutes ago. Cause having a blatant and shameless affair with a mentally ill cannibal mushroom when I'm literally standing right there 2 feet away just ain't fucking on, son. Luckily, Ellie remembers her TV trope status and just says chill yo, cause I'm the super special immune girl what's the key to everything. Well, I used to be at least, till Joel stopped the Fireflies experimenting on me and thus prevented me from fulfilling my destiny. So now I guess I'm just super special, but more in a tarded way. But regardless, don't bloody shoot me bitch, cause I'm totally immune and also give good head.
Fact check.
That's true.
So also naturally, Dina reluctantly agrees to give her a few more hours to prove it. And before you can say, it's probably not a good idea to go to sleep in the same room and only feet away from an exhausted paranoid woman who could think any slight restless twitch or nightmare could be you turning into a cannibal zombie with a heck of a forehead and thus blast you away in seconds. And so why don't you instead just use the time to tell her the intricate details of your tragic backstory already so she can better understand the situation? She wakes up totally fine and with a forehead that mercifully hasn't bloomed flowers and fungus despite the good amount of real estate you would have to work with there. Anyway, Dina's so shaken, confused and relieved that she just blurts out that she's totally preggers and then totally forces herself on Ellie because reasons.
Okay.
And before you can say, I love lesbian scenes as much as the next guy, but surely this is pretty inappropriate and indeed the last place and time you'd want to be getting it on, and by God you both must smell like wet dog down there by now, they wake up the next morning and soon get busy eating beef jerky again. Steady! And Ellie shows her original bite mark, which she tried to burn off and tattoo over years ago, mainly in order to hide it so she could go and wear short sleeves again in public or some shit. And before you can say, well, why didn't you just tell her all this last night when the unstable bitch had a shooter in your face, you fucking... Dina shows her all the sticks she pissed on, what she nicked from the local pharmacy, totally proving that she's with child and Jesse's the father. And that's why she's been thrown up recently, rather than just being disgusted by filthy rotting bodies all over the gaff. And before you can say, damn, we were so close to finally getting a scene in a TV show depicting a female vomiting without it meaning she's pregnant, and that enough a waste of piss sticks, girl. Ellie promises to stand by her sexually confused girly bae, what seems to like being penetrated by some form of long and stiff digits, but not currently sure by which gender she's preferred they're attached to, and says she can't bloody wait to be the daddy of her mate's half Asian, half Latina tot. And they'll all weirdly be one of them modern throuple couples with a super open relationship in the middle of a post-apocalyptic scavenger society. Or some shit. But suddenly, the radio goes off and they soon hear mentions of Nora, aka one of Abby's group, being directed to a local hospital. So they then head up onto the roof to try and spot it. And once they do, and with it looking like it's dangerously under siege, Ellie tells Dina that she should probably stay put given her condition, and says you're just a big fat liability, bro, given you ain't got immunity and are about to be weighed down by a large weight in your gut, and I don't mean severe constipation, after munching all that bloody dry jerky shite. But Dina just grabs her hand and says I'm contracted for all 7 episodes, beach. Now I'm coming along to back up your ass, and not in a kinky way for once, whether you bloody like it or not. Because we're all in this together. So shut up about it already. And that's it, that's the epi. Though my favourite part was seeing Ellie's barn training back in the first epi finally pay off. Though it's a shame that she's such a stunning and brave girl boss that she didn't even have to break out her super special groin wrap finishing move. Lame. But anyway, on to episode 5. We start with the WLF chief lady with the stupid name of Hanaran getting a debrief by one of her officers after this Asian bird killed some of her men and also locked her own son down in an infected basement for shits and giggles. Well, actually more because the cordyceps tendrils, what go around creating cannibal mushroom heads via hurty bites, are now spreading said infection via halitosis.
No way!
Yes way. Because turns out these fuckers are totally evolving to spew infectious spores after 20 odd years because reasons. So Hanaran just says she'll order some Colgate toothpaste off Amazon, so our officers won't have to go around team killing or totally offing their own Asian sons anymore.
Yeah, that's probably good, yeah.
Anyway, after the opening titles, Ellie asks her pregnant lesbo lover Dina if she can potentially possibly help maybe with the cartography shit she's doing whilst trying to find a safe route over to the local hospital and stuff. But Dina just says no chance, love, because despite having a head larger than the fucking moon, there ain't nothing between your ears given you never went to school. So stop pretending you know what triangulation means and shut up about it already. After threatening us with yet another cringy musical number, Dina bursts in with a plan to avoid them naughty WLF goons, plant zombies and Amish baldy joker fellas what love disemboweling peeps because of religion. So they head on out to hunt down Nora already in order to find out Abby's location. Before Dina waffles on about her tragic backstory and how her mum and sis were murdered when she was 8 and she then had to go full Alec Baldwin on the prick. Anyway, later that night, they try to find a shortcut but just end up walking into a giant nest of super fast and smart zombozo fellas. And after earlier insisting to Ellie that discharging weapons should be a last resort given the WLF lot are patrolling nearby, Dina starts discharging more shots than New York health officials at an unlicensed squirrel after getting herself locked in her cage, whilst poor Ellie stuck in the middle getting swarmed. And it looks like it's curtains for the pair of lesbian muff munchers, what constantly seem so reckless and unprepared that you surely must wonder how the frig either of these donuts have survived so long. But luckily, that Asian cuckboy from earlier in the series returns just in the nick of time to totally save his ex-girlfriend and the bird she left him for after he was so bad at relationships he flipped her entire sexuality. And before you can say, holy deus ex machina Batman, and why didn't the rest of them just rush him, given he's barged into a full nest totally solo, they get the heck out of Dodge whilst dodging all the WLF patrols, who luckily can't aim for toffee.
Go!
After heading into a local park where said WLF has totally refused to follow, which can surely only be a good sign, lol, trust me bro, Ellie asks Jesse how the frick he found him in the middle of urban Seattle, as he hilariously says that after splitting from Tommy to cover more ground trying to find him and bring him home already, he randomly found the theatre they were recently staying in and conveniently followed their cartographic maps to boot, which promptly led him straight to him, and just in the nick of time. And before you can say, why did they leave the map there in the theatre, when that seems like it'd be pretty fucking useful when exploring an unknown sprawling metropolis for the first time and totally raging bullshit writing, Batman? They'd come across them Seraphite nutters in the woods, doing their favourite hobby of gutting random white men like a common hog, before suddenly spotting our useless heroes and insisting they'll never escape them. Whilst Dina gets busy taking revenge on Ellie for getting eaten out by another woman right in front of her last epi, by promptly taking the penetration of a pointed shaft to a lower region, and just saying the two can play that game, bitch! Anyway, so now immobilised by said pointed shaft that's made it too painful to walk, and promptly giving me flashbacks to uni when I was encouraged to explore my sexuality during a wild night out with the lads, Ellie leads the nutters out of the woods whilst Jesse takes Dina the other way to safety. After easily escaping, despite the cult leader insisting she totally never would, Ellie sneaks around the back of the hospital they finally came to infiltrate, and pretty easily infiltrates the place to hold up a chocolatey Wakandan bird at gunpoint.
It was super easy.
Naturally, Nora won't tell her where the Abbey bird is for love nor money, and quickly escapes back through the walls to alert her buddies, but just ends up falling down an elevator shaft and chased into the sealed off basement of the Hozzy.
You are so dead. Oh, I'm so dead. Wow.
And as Ellie heads off after her, she comes face to face with them evolved forms of mushroom fellas with a bad breath. And after just leaving all these poor people alive to continue suffering a fate worse than death for shits and giggles, she eventually catches up to a choking Nora, who can now barely shout Wakanda forever anymore, given she's now infected with stinky cordyceps spores. And she just can't believe this teenager with a relentless forehead is mushroom exempt, and the legends about the super immune girl was the key to everything are totally real, isn't she? And after stubbornly still refusing to give up Abby's location even on her deathbed, Ellie just takes out her frustrations with a lead pipe and yells Black Panther 2 was proper shit. Now say hello to Chadwick for me, bitch. And we end with a super random flashback to the Chilean version of Joel walking in on a young vulnerable girl in bed with a super creepy grin on his face. Much like my Uncle Ken, who eventually got arrested for doing something similar back in the 80s. But anyway, that's it. That's episode 5. Though my favourite part is how Dina seems more vengeful than the main character, who is the one who actually had to watch her phony fakey kind of sort of father figure get smashed to smithereens right in front of her, while said protagonist is just out here treating it like a teenage adventure trip and some sort of lesbo honeymoon and shit.
Why are you gay?
But anyway, that's the plot and that's your lot. Considering in that bell thing so you don't miss the roast of the last 2 epis when they drop. Tell me if you like this show in the comments, whatever you have time. And I'll almost get killed by mushroom zombies before my ex-boyfriend who turned me gay farcically comes to save my ass just in the nick of time with you in the next one.